Amazing. Here we go. Here we go. You ready, Bob?
I'm all set.
Bob was born ready. I'll take it. Amazing. So again, hello, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us to learn about foodways and how we can be food rescue heroes in our own lives. So fantastic for you to be here. Oh, it's so good to have all of you with us. So my name is Rose, and I am the Education and Training Manager at Second Harvest. Super excited to launch day one, Keep It Cold, of our 2-day mini-series on food preservation. Preserving food is one of the best ways to stock your pantry, use all of your food, and bring artisan flavors into your own kitchen. So our mini-series is part of this month's Donate the Difference campaign at Second Harvest. So all throughout the month of August, we are sharing handy tips for kitchen and grocery aisles that help people both reduce their food waste and also save money. So you can live a waste-wise life, reduce your food budget, and hopefully donate the difference to support Second Harvest. So if you want to be part of our Donate the Difference campaign, please head to donatethedifference.ca to learn more great food waste prevention tips and find out how you can be a food rescue hero and deliver good food to Canadians in need across the country. So every $1 donated to Second Harvest allows us to provide enough food for 2 meals for a family or an agency in need. So we thank you in advance for your generosity. We would also like to thank Whole Foods Market for helping us make this mini series possible. Thank you very much. Whole Foods Market seeks out the finest natural and organic foods available. They maintain the strictest quality standards in the industry, and they are committed to sustainable agriculture. Not only that, reducing and recovering food waste are central to their mission of nourishing people, animals, and the planet. They upcycle food in their stores, which is fantastic, and they champion food rescue programs. So thank you very much, Whole Foods Market, for sponsoring our event today. So you probably saw it in the title, but we have with us gastronaut, cookbook author, artist, 8-time Guinness World Record holder, Mr. Bob Blumer. We will learn from Bob a bit later some amazing preservation recipes that will have us reaching for those leftovers in no time. So we have a jam-packed evening. So let's get started. To begin, I would love to start with a land acknowledgement. So while we meet today on a virtual platform, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples of all of the lands that we're currently on today. And we do this to reaffirm our commitment and our responsibility in improving relationships between nations and improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this nation home. So please join me in acknowledging the harms and mistakes of the past and to consider how we can, in our own very special way, try to move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. So thank you very much. Okay. So for those who have not heard or not familiar with Second Harvest before, we are Canada's largest food rescue organization, and we are an expert in perishable food recovery. Our mission is dual. It's no waste, no hunger, and it is our commitment to the planet that is both environmental and community focused. We have an incredible 36-year history of rescuing unsold surplus food from across the supply chain and redirecting that food to charities and non-for-profits to serve their in-need communities. So we are super excited to have you here today. Few housekeeping rules, my friends, before we dive into the meat of everything. This session is being recorded, and we can share with you the recording after the event, so keep an eye out for our email. Currently, your video is off and your audio is muted, but I want to hear from you. We do welcome any input you may have, comments, concerns, questions. Let me know in the chat. I will be monitoring that chat today and providing some support there. So please let me know how I can make your time with us a little bit more comfortable. Perfect. So before we start, I'd love to get a read of the room to see how knowledgeable we are already about the topic. So I would invite you to please take a few minutes or maybe a few seconds to answer our first poll of today's session. All right. Interesting. Let me relaunch that poll one more time, my friends. And give me a minute. Sharing. Relaunch. Sorry. Relaunch that poll. All right, here we go. Let's try that one more time. All right, we have folks that are saying they're fairly new to preservation techniques. All right, you're in for a treat, my friends. Great, thank you very much. Okay, so this will be our agenda for today. We will first unpack the avoidable crisis of food waste. Why is there a big problem in Canada to begin with? We will then learn preservation techniques from Bob. He will do a demo directly from his kitchen in Los Angeles. We're in for a treat. And then at the end of it, hopefully you'll be equipped with fun and engaging food waste prevention strategies. And we will be sharing with you additional food saving tips along the way. So keep your ears and your eyes open for them. It's gonna be a lot of golden nuggets coming towards you. Okay, so let's start with this question. What is the avoidable crisis of food waste in Canada? So in January 2019, we invested in research to better understand the depth and breadth of the food loss and waste problem in Canada. And our study showed very troubling results. So I'm actually really curious, how much food do you think we throw out in Canada? Let me know in the poll. How much food do you think is thrown out in Canada every single year? Let me know in the chat. Okay, so some people are saying almost 20%. Some people are saying almost 40%. Majority of us are saying almost 40%. Some of us are saying almost 60%. Yeah. And that. And the whopping numbers, my friends, is 58%. Our research showed that 58% of all food produced in Canada, that's almost 60%, more than half, that we produced in Canada is wasted every single year. That's equivalent weight to 35.5 million metric tons, or the weight of 350,000 blue whales. I just want to remind folks that blue whales are the largest animals in the entire world. And not only that, we found that 32% of that waste is completely avoidable. It's food that you and I would go to the grocery store, be completely happy to buy. That's the equivalent weight of 11.2 million metric tons, or the weight of 90 CN towers. Oh my goodness. So when we waste food, we also waste a lot of resources. In the chat, let me know, what other resources do you think we waste when we waste food? What do you think? In the chat, let me know. Anne says water, absolutely. Linda says water also. Fertilizer, energy, electricity, fuel, labor, says Judith. Manpower system, land, transportation, money, soil. Oh my goodness, so many, right? So food costs us something. And some of you have already kind of said it, right? We need land. We need a whole lot of land In Canada, 53% of our land is devoted to just growing food. We need water, right? We need water simply because our plants need to grow, but we also need water in order to maintain the safety of our food. Labor, someone said labor in the chat as well, right? We need the effort of a lot of hardworking people from across the food supply chain. We need farmers, factory workers, drivers, retailers, everybody working together to get food for us. We need energy. We need a whole lot of energy in the form of electricity and fuel. So when we waste food, we're also wasting these resources. But I think the one resource that hits home for many of us is the loss of this one. Wouldn't you agree? Loss of money. So get this. In Canada, my friends, our food loss and waste problem costs us a whopping $50 billion. My goodness. And looking at per household, in Canada, we waste about $2,000 per year. That's a lot of money, right? That we could use for many other things. So actually, I'm really curious in the chat, if I were to give you $2,000 right now, my friends, what would you use it for? In the chat, let me know. What would you use $2,000 for? Linda says rent. Allison says food. Judith is gonna buy an electric bike. Bills. Donate to Second Harvest. I love you, Ann. Dental care says Amy. A party says Wendy. Vacation says Jess, right? What else? Brenda says food. Home improvement. What else can you do with $2,000? Leslie says education. That's awesome, right? All infinitely better ways to use $2,000 than throwing it down the garbage bin. Valerie says donate meals. Absolutely, all infinitely better ways. Food also has an environmental impact. It's pretty crazy, right? When we throw food in our garbage bins at home, it ends up in really big landfills. And because we're throwing out so much, we're actually creating mountains of food waste in our landfills, literal mountains, right? And something really to note here is that food in landfills don't break down really fast. In landfills, there's a big machine called a compactor, and it packs soil on top of food so tight that the air is removed from the pile, killing harmful bacteria and worms and mushrooms that help break down the food. Food in landfill is also mixed with other garbage, like plastic, that embalms or mummifies the food. So food that would normally take about a month or so to decompose can take decades to decompose in landfill. Then the other thing that causes us to be wary about landfills when it comes to food waste is that landfills also release a bad gas called methane, which harms our environment 25 times more than carbon dioxide. Pretty hardcore. So what can we do to use up and maximize our food? What can we do? Well, here's where Bob comes in. So I'd love to introduce you to our special guest who will be showing us how it's done, Mr. Bob Blumer. So Bob is known as the creator and host of Food Network's award-winning shows Surreal Gourmet and Gluten for Punishment. He has published, this is crazy, 7 cookbooks, and has made multiple appearances across the globe. He transforms ordinary ingredients into wow-inspiring dishes through simple cooking methods and whimsical presentations. And those whimsical presentations have actually become his culinary trademark. He is an ambassador for Second Harvest and Love Food Hate Waste. He is a bona fide food rescue master chef. That's what Bob is. And so we are so excited to have him with us today. We also want to give a huge shout out to Kate, Bob's partner and fermenting expert who is helping Bob behind the scene. So thank you in advance, Kate. And as Bob demos for us his preservation recipes, please feel free to let me know in the chat if you have any questions or comments for Bob, and I will help you with that. So without further delay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We're going to spotlight Bob. and take it away, my friend.
Hey, Rose. Well, thank you so much, Rose. I want to say a big hello to your whole audience. It's so great to be with all of you. And as Rose was ticking off some of the locations, both around Canada and around the world, I was going, I've been there. I remember that place, that city, that country. And so it's so fantastic to have you all here. And I want to welcome you to my home kitchen. Kate, maybe you can just do a little pan here of the kitchen. This kitchen is 32 years in the making, and I've brought little bits and pieces of things home from around the world to it. But it's also very functional. It's tiny. I can pretty well touch every wall with my arms, but it's highly functional. So when Rose asked me if I would consider doing a preservation demo for you, my first reaction was, what do I know about preserving? I never can. I don't think I've ever made a jar of conventional jam before. Things like that involve equipment, sterilizing, and to make a bad pun that I just thought of off the top of my head, that is not my jam. Sorry, with apologies to everyone, including Kate, who's wincing right now. But that's not my jam. And I think it's really important in the world of cooking and in the world of rescuing food to understand that you can't do everything, and you need to find the things that work for you, that are in your wheelhouse, in your comfort zone, all of that. But what I did realize when I started to think about it was that I do preserve a lot of things, just not in that traditional way. I do quick pickling. I make all sorts of sauces and freeze them. Sometimes I make things that I put in my refrigerator. And when I stopped to think about it, I realized that there are, in fact, a lot of things I do to preserve. So tomorrow, Jade Guthrie is going to be sharing a lot of more traditional preserving methods with you. And I'm going to tune in for that. And I'm sure I'll learn an awful lot, and perhaps I'll change my tune going forward. But for now, I'd like to show you how to rescue and preserve, in my form of preserving, a lot of summer and seasonal ingredients. Now, I just want to take one quick step. Go back to what Rose was saying about the amount of food that's wasted. So 58% of the food is wasted in the entire pipeline. That includes at the farms, in the transportation system, at retail. But of all the food that's wasted, roughly a third is wasted in our own home kitchens. Now, as for the other parts, it's a little bit like looking at an emaciated bear on an ice floe, a polar bear, and it tugs at your heart, but there's very little you can do about it, on a day-to-day basis. But when it comes to the 1/3 of all food that's wasted in our own home kitchens, you're really 100% in control of that. And it's what you do and how mindful you are of rescuing the ingredients that might be going off, or things that are in the back of your refrigerator you don't even know are there, or things you just didn't plan to have extra of. And somehow, some which way, you need to find and be very mindful and find a way to preserve it. So that brings us to what we're doing today. And I want to start with seasonal fruits and vegetables. At this time of year, there's a ton of stone fruit, there's a ton of berries, there's lots of melons. And, sometimes you go to Costco or a big box store and it's such a great deal, you can't turn down buying the whole whatever flat or bushel or whatever it is. Sometimes you'll go to a farmer's market, and Rose, if you can just throw this picture up, I was at my farmer's market this weekend, and one of the stone fruit farmers had what I like to call a scratch and dent box. So it's fruit that's a little bit soft, maybe it's got a bruise on it, maybe it's got a cut on it, and instead of being $4 a pound, it's $1 a pound. And I'm a creative guy, and I'm also a little bit frugal. And so when I see fruit like that, I start to think of all the things I can do to rescue it, because I don't want that to end up going home with a farmer and being thrown on the field. Or perhaps it's being fed to the pigs, but I put myself a little higher up in the order than the pigs. Or perhaps you have it at home and it's been in your fridge for a while and it's going off in your own fridge. So I want to show you how to make something called refrigerator jam. So refrigerator jam is something that is as delicious, if not even more delicious, than the kinds of jams that you'll buy in the grocery store in a jar. And I'm going to show you why. And I'm going to show you something that might shock you. And Kate, if you can just stand back a bit. If you were to go to the grocery store and buy 2 jars of peach jam, those 2 jars of peach jam would contain this many peaches and that much sugar. White, unadulterated, processed sugar. That's how much sugar is in 2 jars of jam. And the reason for that is that it's the sugar that preserves the fruit so that it becomes shelf stable. Of course, you have to sterilize the jar and all that, but at the end of the day, it's the sugar that sterilizes, the sugar that preserves the jam, and that's why the jam can sit on the shelf before it's open for years, frankly. But let me show you how to make a jam that has all of the flavor of a store-bought jam. In fact, even more, because it's just the real fruit and almost none of the sugar. So these are peaches. These are white peaches and yellow peaches. And I just saved one. You see here, if you look closely, it's a little soft, it's a little bruised, but that's okay. I'm going to make a little cross in the top, little cross in the bottom. I'm throwing it into some boiling water, although as Rose was taking her polls, my water boiled off. So I'm just going to spin it around for a second so that all sides of it get a little bit of that boiling heat. I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it into an ice bath, and pretty well in no time, see how that skin just almost literally pops off in my hand. And now just going to break it open, take out the seed, and now I have my lovely peeled and pitted peach. Now I'm going to take the rest of these and put them into a pot. Now, remember all this sugar that would have gone into 2 jars of jam? That's all the sugar we need to make a refrigerator or a freezer jam, because it doesn't need to be preserved. That's 4 tablespoons of sugar. And you know how sweet a peach is when you taste it. So why do you need all that sugar on top of that for your jam? Now, the other 2 ingredients for a refrigerator or a freezer jam are a 1/4 of an apple. Now, an apple, along with the skin, contains natural pectin, and pectin is what is the ingredient that thickens up your jam. So we're going to do that naturally with an apple. In fact, a lot of the pectin that's used making sugar to what weight if you use sugar alternatives? Well, we're only talking about 4 tablespoons. You could cut that back. I'm sure you could use something like stevia if you wanted to. But how many pounds of peaches? Well, that was 3 cups of peaches and 4 tablespoons of sugar. 1/4 of an apple, and the last ingredient is about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. And that, my friends, is all it takes to make a delicious jam. And I'm going to put this on the burner over a medium heat, and it's going to cook down. And in the course of the rest of this hour that we spend together, it's going to cook all the way down to the point that we can either put it in the refrigerator in a jar where it will last for up to a week, or we could put it in a Ziploc bag in small portions and put it in the freezer. Then anytime you want any peach jam, you can take it out of the freezer, let it thaw, and it's good to go. Now, you can also do the same thing with any kind of berries. It's the exact same proportions, roughly for 2.5 or 3 cups of berries, you need about 4 tablespoons of sugar, that 1/4 of an apple, and a couple of tablespoons of lemon juice. It's really that simple, but I'll show you how this looks at the end when we come back. Any other questions? Rose,
I did
got
have
any
a
questions?
question. I did have a couple of questions sent my way. They were wondering, Bob, could you mix different fruits together, like berries and nectarines?
Sure. Absolutely. You can do anything you want. You could add a little bit of ginger if you wanted to, just to give it, add a little flavor if you want. Totally up to you. But yes, of course, you can use, and again, if your strawberries are going off, if you've got raspberries, if you've got blueberries, you can mix all three of those together. Any kind of stone fruit, peaches, plums, nectarines, anything like that.
Nice. And can they use the skins or is it just the flesh?
You can certainly eat the skin, but if you have an extra few minutes, it's nicer just to boil them for a couple of seconds and drop them in an ice bath. The skins really, first of all, I don't think you really digest the skins that well. But after you've made the jam, they're just going to float around and be skin-like. So it's your call, though. Certainly not going to hurt you if you decided to eat the skins.
Oh, there you go, folks. Skins, up to you. I also
Or
have a
maybe you can
question for.
make peach skin bacon. I don't know.
Ooh.
I'm sure there's somebody who's won an episode of Top Chef out there who's made, bacon with. Anyways,
Oh
go
my
on.
goodness. We challenge everybody to make that and then let us know. I have a question from Wendy, and she asked, how about a few ounces of liquor? Are we allowed to add that into the pickle, into the jam?
Absolutely. Why not? Why not? Certainly a couple ounces of Cointreau, Grand Marnier, something like that, a dark rum. That would be really nice. I mean, keep in mind, it's not all going to cook off. So if you're feeding it to your, if you have any kids and you're feeding it to your kids for breakfast, buyer beware. But you're welcome to do it.
Amazing.
All right, let me show you another super fast recipe. This one involves plums, and but again, could be any stone fruit. I was actually going to make the jam from strawberries, and Kate and I were talking and realized strawberries are not the things that you have a lot of left over, and usually they're not really going that often. If you have them and they're going off, maybe you're just going to make a strawberry smoothie with a banana and say, and be done with it. But stone fruit we tend to buy in bigger quantities, and it does sit in our fridge. So I want to show you something with a plum. You could use peaches, nectarines. You can also use melons for this if you want. But I'm going to take my plum, do the same thing I did before, and just sort of cut a little cross in it like that, top and the bottom. I'm going to throw it into the water for just a second. Sorry, I did a few of these plums in advance, so that's why the water's got a bit of color to it. That's just lovely plum water. Okay, and that's all it takes. Again, into the ice bath. It'll be the same ice bath. And see the way that skin, this one's putting up a little more of a fight, but it's because I didn't really boil it for long enough, but you can see it just pops right off like that. There we go. And there's a bit of a bruise at the top, and if you want, you can take your paring knife after you've finished peeling it, and you could just, sorry, Kate, I was moving too fast. You could cut off that last little bit there. And if you need to use your paring knife to cut the extra skin off, let's give you any trouble, you can do that as well. And then I'm just going to pop the pit out. And it's really important to pop the pit out here because we're going to add this to the blender in a second. And you'll know very quickly if you've forgotten the pit. So I'm going to use my little bullet here. I'm taking all of these plums. And again, if I'd chosen, I could have used watermelon or any kind of leftover melon. Same thing, because we're going to make frozen pops. And to show you how easy this is, it's only one ingredient. So I've taken my plums. There's a little bit of juice at the bottom here. If I wanted to, and maybe I will, just because I plucked these from the garden, I could add a little bit of mint. And another classic ingredient to add is a little bit of ginger. So I might add just a wee bit of ginger. If you're making, if you've got peaches, for example, and you want to make it a little bit creamier, you could add a little bit of yogurt. You could add a little coconut milk. You could add half a really ripe banana, and that would make it a little creamier. But that's it. And I'm gonna take it over here. And you might want to just close your ears for a second. That's it. So I've blended up the plums, so I have a nice thick plum juice. And just to remind you, I didn't add any sugar. If I wanted to, I didn't really have to add anything. And I have these nifty little frozen pop molds. These will set you back like maybe $6 or $8. Always great to have these on hand. Just fill them up. Let's see how easy this is. And throw this in the freezer where they will last for a few months if you don't get to them, although it's pretty hard to keep yourself from going straight to the freezer as soon as they've frozen, which is usually just a few hours. And these are good. I mean, fantastic for kids, grown-up kids, adults, even cynical old chefs like myself. And that's it. I mean, that's how you make a frozen pop from stone fruit or melon or anything else that's starting to go off, and how you rescue it. And the truth is, once it's in this format, who's going to know that you've rescued it and that it was, you had the choice of throwing it out or blending it up. And so you decided to blend it up. All they're going to know is you've got the tastiest, healthiest, zero sugar added frozen plum pop or melon pop or peach pop that anyone has ever tasted. As simple as that, really. Rose, did I lose you anywhere on that?
No, absolutely. I've been getting a bunch of questions, Bob. The first question for you, my friend, is there an alternative for ginger? We have a picky eater little one with us.
You know what? It's easy. You just don't, all you need to add is the fruit. You don't need to add anything. And I often do that, and it's just really delicious. I only added the ginger because I put the ginger out to remind myself to share that option with everybody who's watching. And I thought, well, I've got it out, I may as well use a tiny bit. But it's perfectly fine with just the fruit.
Oh, nice. And how long will it stay in the freezer, do you think?
Well, these nifty little frozen pop containers, they actually, the lid snaps. So this is airtight, and this will last in the refrigerator for at least 6 months.
Nice. There you go, folks.
If you can keep it there long enough.
That's gonna be the challenge. I think I'm with you, Bob. As long as that thing freezes, I'm grabbing one.
Once you get in the habit, even if you have like one wedge of honeydew melon in your refrigerator and you don't think you're going to get to it, or it's Tuesday and you've got a half a melon, you think you're not going to get to the whole thing by the end of the week, then just take a bit of that and blend it up. And maybe you've only got 2 or 3 pops, but that's all that you need. And it, again, so delicious. One last ingredient you might add is a squeeze of lemon or lime too, if you are so inclined. But again, not necessary at all. Strictly optional.
And maybe the last question, Bob, and then we can move on to another recipe. But is there any fruits you think that don't freeze well?
Pineapple and papaya, I believe, are the two, because they have an enzyme in them. It's the same enzyme. And come to think of it, I might be wrong about the freezing with pineapple. I think it's harder to freeze, but you can't make pineapple jello because it has that enzyme that doesn't set. And so I do believe pineapple and papaya are a little harder to freeze, but come to think of it, I think you can freeze them.
Nice. All right, there you go. Awesome.
All right, should we move on to rescuing tomatoes?
Yes, please.
Sure, we should. Okay, well, at this time of the year, it's not uncommon to come home after a day's work if you had left the house, or even just go out to your front door and you've had a neighbor leave some tomatoes by your door, because of course for 10 and a half months of the year, it's hard to find a great tomato. And then for 1.5 months of the year, it's hard to figure out how to use up all your tomatoes. And either you have a neighbor who's growing them, you're growing them yourself. There are bushels of them at the local, corner store, like in Toronto, I often see that. Or you won the tomato lottery. Whatever the case is, it's that time of year where there are lots of tomatoes, and sometimes you just can't get to them all. So I want to show you how to make a tomato sauce that you can either put in the refrigerator for a week or put in the freezer for up to 6 months. And by the way, anytime, here's a little chef tip for you. Anytime you see a recipe that says will last in your refrigerator for 6 months, that really means the person writing the recipe is saying, what I have to tell you is this will last in the freezer for up to 6 months. But frankly, I would eat it for up to a year. And that's how I feel about it. I'll eat anything in my freezer for up to a year. It's sort of like a liability issue that everyone likes to play it safe on. Basically, you make tomato sauce and you'll have it in your freezer for a year. If you make the kind that I'm going to show you how to make, you can use it on pasta and pretty well pull it out of the freezer and have a delicious instant pasta sauce that all you need to add is pasta. Or it's a fantastic pizza base if you're making your own pizzas, either stovetop or in your oven or in your backyard barbecue, or if you're lucky enough to have a pizza oven in your yard. But this is a great multi-purpose, very flavorful tomato sauce. Now, just before I get to it, I want to take a look at my peach jam. And you can see these peaches are breaking down just naturally. Kate's getting wafts of it and is saying how great it smells. Actually, you don't need me to tell you that. You can hear her because she's got a microphone on as well. All right, so let's move on to making a quick tomato sauce. So I've just turned my burner on. I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil. And now I'm gonna start with the basics just to create my sauce base. So I'm gonna start with some onion. This is my refrigerator, it's been there for a while, so I thought it'd be a good onion to rescue. And I'm not really measuring. Rose, I don't know if you've mentioned, but we have recipes for everything that I'm making today. You'll have available to all of your friends, our friends who have joined in today. So all these recipes are available, and you'll have all the portions and everything. So, so here we go. I'm going to add a little bit of garlic. When I say a little bit, I really mean a lot. So that's 5 cloves of garlic. But if you're garlic averse, and this is going to cook down, by the way, and once your garlic is cooked, it doesn't have nearly the bite. So we're adding the garlic. I'm also going to add a few anchovies. And because I like to be zero waste, and now I'm going to have some extra anchovy oil as I empty the bottle, I'm going to add a little bit of the anchovy oil. I'm also adding some chili pepper flakes. Now, as this starts to cook down, I'm going to take my tomatoes. I'm going to core. Oh, and sorry. So these tomatoes were from my farmer's market. And these are what I call scratch and dent. You can see they're a little tired. They're a little soft. I paid $1 a pound for these. They're beautiful heirloom tomatoes. There's also not enough water in here, by the way, but we're going to make it work. So back here, I've taken the core out, and I've just made a little X with my core there. Again, this is one of the perfect things to do with soft tomatoes. These tomatoes are probably a couple days past when you would want to make them into a tomato salad or just slice them up on a sandwich. And you see I've got a little bit of, there's a wee bit of mold there. It's not scaring me at all. Just going to cut around that. And if you look right into the tomato, you see. Now, when I'm at the farmer's market and I see a little bruise like that or a little bit of mold, I'm not intimidated. And oh, this is a probably costs $1 at a cookware store, but it is actually made for the job. But if you don't have a, oops, and see back here, I might want to just take that out as well. If you don't have a tomato core, all you need to do is take a paring knife, do that, and like that, into the water. And I'm just going to turn these tomatoes around. For 1 extra second. Do a quick little cleanup. And now I'm going to do the same thing I did with my peaches and my plums, which is put the tomatoes in this ice bath. Grab my first one. See the way that skin just pops right off. Now, as with the peaches and the plums, should I be lazy and not want to take the tomato skin off? It's really not going to hurt you, but it just makes for a cleaner tomato sauce. So here we go. I just skin off. Tomato straight into my pan. Break these up, and I'm just going to let the tomato sauce simmer the same way the peaches and my peach jam is simmering. And when we come back from this little commercial break and you guys get to hang out with Rose, it's pretty well going to be all done. That's how quickly we're able to do this. So Rose, I'm going to throw it over to you. And let me just add a couple more things into my pan here before I do throw it over to you. So I'm going to break the tomatoes up a tiny bit. And the last couple of things I'm going to add are some capers. I'm lucky enough to have some basil growing in my garden. So I'm going to add some basil. And the very last thing I'm going to add is a little bit of balsamic vinegar. Now this is all going to cook down. And then once it's cooked down, I have the option of putting it in letting it cool and then putting it in the blender to turn it into a sauce. If I have an immersion blender, I can just, that's international sign language for use an immersion blender in your pot. And we're going to turn this into a fabulous tomato sauce. But Rose, back over to you as I clean up and get ready to show you a few more things on the back end.
You got it. Thanks, my friend. Oh, that looks so yummy. I can't wait to make tomato sauce. I'll take it.
Smells
awesome.
Yummy too.
All right. So as Bob is getting ready for recipes 4, 5, and 6, I'm going to throw it back to all of you in the chat. I want to know what your answer is to this, because I know you're all our food saving gurus. So in the chat, let me know, what is your food saving tip or recipe? What do you do to save food? In the chat, let me know.
And I'm working here, but I'm listening. I'm listening for tips, Rose.
Perfect. We can maybe teach Bob a couple of things. I love it. I love it.
Of course you can.
We'll take it. Linda says, if you make a lot, freeze it right away. Oh, there you go. Soups out of food scraps. Oh, lovely. What is this? Tomato skin powder, says Donald. Interesting. I want to pick your brain with that, Donald, later. Caitlin says, buy reduced produce. Love it. What else? Letty says, I freeze leftover rice. Quick fried rice. Oh, a person after my own heart. I feel you, my friend. Freeze a lot of fresh fruit like cherries. in an individual sheet pan and put it in the freezer. Love it. Yes. What else do people do? Make jam. Oh, Aya also makes jams. Perfect. Judith makes pesto out of the green tops of carrots. I love it. Extra grapes to drink for drinks and jams are also super great for smoothies. I am with you there. Freeze bones for soup later. Okay, I love it. Berg dehydrates is Farida. I love it. Make broth, soups, chili, freeze seasonal vegetables. Make freezer jam as saved shrimp shells for broth. Okay, I love that. What else do people do to save food? What is a recipe tip? How about if you have kids? Let me know in the chat. If you have kids, what are good food saving tips for kids? Or if you have a picky eater, what do you do to save food? Ratatouille, use lots of different vegetables at once. Yes. Or blend vegetables into tomato sauce. Absolutely. Freeze some portions in bags of freeze fruits in bags for smoothies later for kids. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Masking maybe not a favorite fruit with another more delicious, sweeter fruit. I love it. Good stuff. Yeah, see, lots of amazing tips that people have to make sure food is saved in your own home. I love it. So I do want to show, before I share that, I do want to share that eating food past the best before date is my favorite tip that I always share with folks. In the chat, let me know, yes or no. Do you eat food past the best before date? In the chat, let me know. Caitlin says yes. Alan says good one. Eddie says yes. Oh my goodness, the chat is exploding with lots and lots of yeses. All right. Of course, says Rachel. Definitely, says Angie. Except milk, says Letty. Oh, interesting. Okay, so I'm going to launch a poll, my friends, and I want to know your answers to these 3 questions. How long past the best before date do you think certain food items are good to eat? So let me know. Finish these 3 questions for me. The first question, how long past the best before date can we still eat dairy and eggs? So this includes milk. And the second question is, how long past the best before date can we still eat canned vegetables and meat? And then the last one is, how long past the best before date can we still eat rice, cereal, or oats? Let me know. Laura said, when I was a kid, our food didn't have dates. I hear you. I hear you, Laura. Thomas said, I have eaten canned foods like 10 years past the best before date. Okay, okay. Sounds good. Maybe give folks a few more seconds to answer this question. All right, a few more seconds, folks. Get those answers in, and let's see. Let's see. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, closing off the poll. Let's see what we got. So we said, how long past the best before date can we still eat dairy and eggs? 50% said 1 week, 40% said 2 weeks, 10% said never. It's 2 weeks. 2 weeks past the best before date. You can eat milk. It's not crazy. When I was in undergrad, when I was in university, I would buy, in Canada, our milk is bagged. And so it would come in 3 bags, and I would freeze 2, and I would de-thaw or thaw as I went along, because frozen milk is good 6 months past the best before date. Interesting, huh? How about the next one? How long past the best before date can we still eat canned vegetables and meat? 16% said 2 weeks, 30% said 6 months, 53% said 1 year. 1 year. 1 year past the best before date for canned veggies and meat. Isn't that insane? So don't throw out your cans if it's past the best before date. They're still good. 1 week, 1 month, 1 year past the best before date. There we go. Then the last one, How long past the best before date can we still eat rice, cereal, and oats? 8% said 2 weeks, 30% said 6 months, 60% said 1 year. It's 1 year. Isn't that insane? For us rice lovers, that was music to my ears. I'll take that anytime. And I want to just recommend I just want to say to folks that these are just recommendations. So I've definitely eaten food past the best before date, like a year, 2 years past the best before date. So I want to know in the chat, for those who eat past the best before date, what do you do? How do you tell if food is no longer good to eat? What do you do? Letty says, smell it. If eggs float, it's still good. If it's rancid, yeah. So I'm hearing from the chat that you're using your senses, right? You're using your sense of taste, your eyes. If it's rotten, you're feeling it. If it's sticky, no good, says Linda, right? Or Angie said that. Yeah, smell and sight, really good, amazing ways to determine if your food is good or bad. Don't use the date. The dates can be misleading for sure. Okay, so best before dates are a manufacturer's best estimate. It's a guess, essentially, of the peak quality of food. It is not a food safety indicator, which means you can eat food past the best before date and live to tell the tale, my friends. You'll be just fine as long as you practice proper food handling and safety, which most of us do anyway. Awesome. So here are additional tips for you. There are some resources. So we have launched amazing videos for you to watch. We have 3 cooking with scraps recipe videos up for grabs in our YouTube account. So feel free to check that out. So learn how to turn yesterday's mashed potatoes and wilted herbs into mouth-watering croquettes. How about using those broccoli stems and potato skins to make broccoli stem soup with potato skin croutons? I saw a lot of soup lovers in the chat a while ago. So that recipe is for you, my friends. And my all-time favorite, instead of throwing away all those leftovers, bruising veggies, why don't we make a last meat or vegetarian dinner and make a delicious quick stew? So head to our YouTube channel, Second Harvest, to access these amazing videos. And I would be more than happy to send it in an email for you so that you have it handy. And finally, we have launched an educator's guide to food waste prevention. So our guide is filled with 10 interactive and out-of-the-box activities to inspire children to reduce food waste at home, at school, and in their community. So from regrowing food scraps to busting food date label myths, the educator's guide to food waste prevention will support your children in becoming agents of change. What I love about this guide is that we tell you everything that you need to know. We will unpack how you facilitate, what materials is required, lesson extensions. We've been online learning for 1.5 years now, so we have tips and tricks on how you could take the activity on an online platform, which is really amazing. We have developed the educator's guide for educators at large, so you don't have to be a teacher, my friends. It's good for teachers, parents, camp leaders, guardians, older children, anyone who want to inspire children to reduce food waste and become food rescue heroes. So head to training.secondharvest.ca to access this guide and reap the benefits. All right, Bob, are we ready, my friend? Can I pass it on back to you?
And why not, Rose?
Do you need a minute? I'm
just a
happy.
wee bit behind. No,
Oh, don't worry.
We're all
about
good.
it.
We're all good. Are we
Awesome.
back?
Yeah. Yes. I don't see you. Are you there, Bob?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, my friend, but I cannot see you. Okay, and in the chat, let me know. Do you guys see Bob? No.
We haven't actually touched.
Not spotlighted.
I'm not spotlit, according to Kate.
Kate, okay, so we can hear you, my friend, but for some odd reason, I can't. Ah, you are amazing. Here we go. Back to you, Bob.
All right, well, welcome back. I want to show you probably the easiest preservation trick of all time. And it's a form of pickling, but whereas conventional pickling takes all sorts of ingredients, a brine, all sorts of equipment to sterilize your jars and all of that, this, and a lot of time. In fact, I have a friend who was pickling and invited some friends over. They spent all of Saturday, an entire Saturday pickling. I'm going to show you how to pickle in 60 seconds or less. And the hack is that you start with an empty jar of pickles that still has the brine left in it. And so this brine is, in most cases, vinegar, salt, sugar, some herbs, and then sometimes some spices and some secret ingredients. But a brine, after you've eaten all the pickles in your jar of pickles, the brine is still good, because after all, what they did originally was take the pickles or the cucumber, put them in the brine pickled them, you eat the pickles, the brine still has the capacity to pickle. So I want to show you how to rescue lettuce. Now that might seem like a very odd thing to do, but the truth is lettuce is right up there on the list of things that gets thrown out. We throw it out by the bushelful, by the truckload, by the stadium load. And a great thing to do with pickled lettuce is to use it on sandwiches and on burgers, because it's got a fantastic crunch. It's got the flavor of the pickling, be it like a dill flavor or a sweet pickle, and it'll last in your fridge for about a month in the brine. So it's super cool and super easy. You could also take things like carrots or radishes and put them in the brine, or cauliflower, and it will get pickled as well. So I have this, it's been in my fridge for about 3 weeks, I'm embarrassed to say. It's a few gem lettuces.
Can you also pickle spinach? Question.
I would say technically you can pickle spinach, but that you want something that's going to end up with a bit of a crunch. And I'm not sure that spinach is ever going to have any crunch to it. So what I'm doing here is I'm cutting off the really tired bits. And then I'm going to cut this, I'm going to half this. And see, I can check on the inside, it's fine. I might have thrown that out. Someone else might have thrown that out when they saw that, what was happening on the outside. This is also a little bit tired, but still good. This, I just need to pull that outer leaf off and just cut away the discolored part. And then this is not as old, but still a bit tired. So actually it's quite beautiful. Well, let's see how much we can fit in this jar. So the only thing you need to know is that whatever you put in the jar needs to be covered by the brine. We want to push it down. There we go. Look at that, the brine has covered it naturally. And you know what, just because I can, somewhere in my fridge here, I have a carrot. I didn't even think of this before, but just to give the pickles some nice color. Take my carrot. There we go. Add this to the jar, push that down, add some nice little color like that. And I would pop that in my fridge in about 2 days, I'm gonna have beautiful, crunchy, crispy, pickled lettuce. In this case, these were sweet pickles. They were bread and butter pickles, so it's gonna have a bit of a sweetness to it. I could dice up a little bit of this lettuce and mix it in with some egg salad, or even just put it on an egg salad sandwich on top. It would be a perfect complement. Yes, you can pickle onions. What else can you pickle, Kate? So radishes, onions, cucumber, of course.
I think you can pickle everything except for tomatoes.
There you go. You can pickle everything except for tomatoes. That's a perfectly fine piece of lettuce, and I'm not going to let it go to waste. Lovely. All right, Rose, I think we're going to end with this leftover herb pesto.
How long before it pickles?
About 2 days. Takes about 2 days to really get that deep pickle and get all that beautiful crispy crunchiness. But after a day, you could open up the jar and try it, and I'm sure it would still be, it'd already be super tasty. And actually, before I get on to my last the last rescue dish, I want to show you where we're at with our jam and with our tomato sauce. So here's the jam. As you can see, it's cooked down, and it's getting nice and thick. I actually just took some and put it in a jar just to let you see what that looks like. So this jar, the only thing I needed to do with this jar, because it's going in the refrigerator, it doesn't have to be shelf stable, is I put this in our dishwasher. If you don't have a dishwasher, you could just wash it with hot water and soap, let it dry, and then that's as clean as you need it to be. And this will last in the fridge for about a week. And then I'm going to take the rest of this after it cools down, and I'm going to divide it into about 6 different Ziploc bags and put it into the freezer. And then anytime I'm in the mood for peach jam, not only peach jam, but like the best peach jam you've ever made that has all the flavors of summer and none of that gratuitous sweetness that you find in store-bought jams, then I'm always going to have a little bit, and it'll only take 15 minutes to thaw, and I'm off. You know, I'm enjoying my fresh peach jam and toast, or whatever I've chosen to put it on. Now here's our tomato sauce. And probably want to let that cook down for another 15 minutes or so it thickens up a little bit more. And if you're using this as a pizza sauce, then you could just leave it as is, and you get the nice capers and little surprises of bits of garlic and onion and everything else. Or if you want, as I say, you can let it cool down, put it in the blender and blend it up. And then what I do after that is I just freeze it. Just like that. Couldn't be simpler. I made a batch of tomato sauce about a week ago, but these little pouches will last in my freezer for at least 6 months, and truthfully a year. And then anytime I want to make a pasta or a pizza, it's as easy as pulling it out of the freezer. Is that true, Kate? Do we do that all the time?
Mm-hmm.
Hang on 1 second. I just want to introduce you to Kate,
Hi.
who is always helping me out here and is also a big zero waste advocate. Rose, how are we doing? Still with me?
Yeah, we're doing well. I have a couple of questions for you, Bob. Could
Okay.
they add the jam to make like fruit bread? Is that something that we could use the jam for?
To make, sorry, fruit what?
Fruit bread. So like to spice up the bread, could they add the jam when they're making like a fruit bread or an angel cake or something like that?
I don't see why not. If you would add any other kind of jam, you can add this jam for sure.
Nice. Okay, there you go. And then so they saw you kind of not use the tomato skins. Do you have any recipes that can maximize the tomato and use all those skins?
Well, truthfully, Kate and I have chickens, so we always feed our tomato skins to the chickens. So I have not had cause to come up with a recipe, but I do know chefs that will dehydrate them. So you could put them on a rack in the oven either overnight with the pilot light on, or at say 200 degrees Fahrenheit, by the way. Don't want to mix those up with Celsius degrees. And they will dry, and then you can blend them up in a coffee grinder or whatever, and you've got tomato skin powder that you can sprinkle on whatever you want to sprinkle it on.
Ooh, there you go. All right, amazing tips. Thanks, Bob.
All right, so I want to show you how to make a zero waste pesto, or at least how to use up your herbs and maybe a few other things to make a fabulous pesto. Because a lot of us buy herbs and then, you know, we get a bunch of, this is Italian parsley. You might have cilantro that you bought for something. You might have like this tired bunch of dill and mint, sorry. And so it's a good way to use these up. And again, this is something you can use pesto. It'll last in your fridge for a week. It's the same thing with all of this. Last in your fridge for a week or last in your freezer for up to 6 months, which really means up to a year. So let's start by taking our leftover cilantro. And I could actually go a little further down here, but I can see it's getting a bit dodgy just below the rubber band here. So I've got the cilantro. I've got some Italian parsley. And you know what? The truth is the Italian parsley stems look pretty fine. So I'm going to use all of those as well. I'm going to just cherry pick some more by taking the band off this. I'm going to cherry pick some more of the mint that was just hiding in the bunch here. And in the name of time, I'm not going to go any further, but I'm sure I could rescue another half a cup of mint from that. I also happen to have in our refrigerator, a little bit of leftover Swiss chard. So I'm going to use that. That's a nice green. And at the farmer's market this weekend, I bought some fennel. Fennel is, of course, it's a combination with flavor, tastes a little bit like licorice meets celery. And then dice that up and put it in salads. This is actually a pretty small fennel bulb, but you get all these fennel fronds and they are fantastic. I use them in place of dill all the time. It's like a very licorice-like dill, but fantastic in pesto. You can use pretty well any greens that you have the tops of. You can use carrot tops. I'm a little hesitant to make a pesto just out of carrot tops because it can be a little bit bitter, but certainly a few carrot tops, some radish tops, turnip tops. Again, these fennel fronds. So that's our greens instead of using basil. What else do we need? We need some cheese. So I happen to have a little bit of grated Parm. This is just sort of the dregs of some. And then I also have just the very end of a piece of Parm. That's mostly rind, but I can rescue this. And actually the easiest way to do this is just cut as close as you can to the rind, rough chop it, and your blender is going to do all the work for you. Now, Rose, I'm going to show you how to make a pesto pasta with this. So while I'm finishing this off, I'm actually going to take some pasta and add it to the boiling water, which here in California, we don't even waste water. So I took the water that I was boiling the tomatoes and the plums in, and I just put it in a smaller pot. And now I'm adding my pasta to it. It'll have a nice little essence of plum and tomato. It'll add to that. I see I have some more of this, some more of the Swiss chard escaping me there. I need some nuts, and I had some almonds in the back of my fridge. These are dry roasted almonds. Now, the traditional oil for pesto is an olive oil, but there's a great way you can rescue oil that would otherwise be thrown out, and that is oil from jars of sun-dried tomatoes or artichoke stored in oil or olive stored in oil. So that's practically an empty jar of sun-dried tomatoes, but there's a few tablespoons of oil. And you know what? There's a couple of sun-dried tomatoes left in there, but that's only going to add to the deliciousness of this pesto. The last thing I need, of course, is some garlic. And I'm going to try and use up the tiny little cloves that we also often get a little lazy and don't want to peel. So I'm going to peel a couple of those along with the rest of these. You want like 3 or 4 cloves of garlic. And oops. And you want to give these just a quick little smash so that they get pulverized in the blender instead of just staying as one big chunk. So I'm just going to speed this up here if I can. Smash or just a little chop. So there we go. And that's going to be a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. And this is going to be our zero waste pesto. Now, very quickly, I'm going to take a few beautiful yellow cherry tomatoes. These ones are not seconds. These I just bought at the grocery store, but they're gorgeous and they're going to be a nice foil for the color of the pesto. So I'm multitasking here. I'm showing you how to make the pasta and how to make the pesto all at the same time. So we're going to put a little oil into the pan, going to heat up our tomatoes. And now I'm going to finish off the pesto in the blender. And there we go. Look at how beautiful that is, Rose.
Ooh,
And that,
yummy.
with all those leftover herbs, will taste as delicious, if not even more delicious, than traditional store-bought pesto. Now, let me show you the real secret to making pesto pasta. And the secret is in turning the pesto, which if you see it right here, is more, let's call it chunky. But we want to turn it into a sauce. Let me just check my pasta. Pasta is done. So I'm going to start by taking my pasta. Adding it to my pan. Now I'm going to take some of the pesto and add it in, but see how it's remaining kind of chunky and just sitting there? Here is the secret. And this is a great zero waste secret too, because we're saving water that has some of the gorgeous starch from the pasta in it. And this water is going to transform the pesto, that thick gooey pesto, into a gorgeous pesto sauce. You see, I can even use a little bit more of it. And you see how we instantly transform the pesto that was like this into this gorgeous sauce. And whatever I'm not using now, I can either put in a jar in the fridge for a week, or, and I'll show you how I've done it because I did some of this. What I like to do is take a glass dish like this. I'll put all my pesto in. I'll cover it with a piece of plastic wrap, put it in the freezer, and then when it's done, I'll just slice it up like this, and I'll cut it into different size pieces and wrap them in plastic wrap, put them in the freezer, mark the date that I made them, so I know in a year from now, if they've been there that long, that it's time to dispose of them. But I have yet in my life to throw out any pesto because it all gets used, or I share it with my neighbors. I bring it as a little gift if I go for dinner, and there we are using up all of our tops. We're using up our unloved herbs, and we're making the most of everything that we buy. I think that's just about it, Rose. We'll save the herb butter for another time, but I really want to thank you all for joining me, and I want to thank you all for being food rescue heroes, because if each and every one of us just does a few of the things that we did here today, and or some of these other things that you've talked about, we're all going to make a big difference. It's all the little differences that add up to the big differences. And we certainly, the food rescue heroes like yourselves who are on this little Zoom today, are the ones who can lead the way. We're the ones who are basically showing everybody else how it's done. And the more we lead by example, the more people will follow us, the more change will happen. And in the interim, while you're making change happen, you're also eating very well. And that's a lovely prize. You know, an exchange of services. You're doing something good for the world, and the world is returning its favor by sharing its bounty with you, and even sharing an extra round of deliciousness that you wouldn't be enjoying if you weren't making the most of all those little scraps and tail ends of things that you have in your house. So with that, I say thank you very much. I'm going to hang around, Rose, to answer any questions you have. Kate and I are going to have a little bit of this pasta. And I really appreciate each and every one of you taking the time from your day or your night or your morning, depending on where you are in the world, to spend the time with us. So thank you so much.
Amazing, Bob. Woo! Round of applause for Mr. Bob Blumer, everybody. That was delicious. Oh my goodness. I wish I was in your kitchen eating that amazing pesto pasta. Looks fantastic.
You know, I would love to share it with you, Rose.
We need to like invent this like wafting smell so that like the smell of food can get through the interwebs. I feel like that needs to happen sooner rather than later. So I'll take it. In the chat, everyone, let me know which one was your favorite recipe today that Bob showed you. Which one was your favorite? Let me know in the chat. I do want a smell-o-vision. For sure, Melissa. Pesto, peach jam, pickled lettuce. Pickled lettuce is, oh, the sauce. Oh my goodness. I feel like everybody loves everything. I love it. Peach jam, pesto. Amazing. There you go, folks. Just simple recipes that are tried and true that can really make a big difference. So we want to thank Bob first and foremost for those mouth-watering recipes. And before we maybe head off to the Q&A, I would love for everybody to finish or complete the last poll of today's event, please. If you could please take a couple of seconds to finish the last poll of today's event, that would be really helpful. Thank you. Thanks for that, Farida. Thank you for hanging out with us. Pickled lettuce and pesto, says Laura, her favorite. All right, fantastic. Thank you, everybody. So maybe we'll do a couple, maybe we'll do one or two questions for Bob. I'll spotlight him again. And I'll spotlight me too, so I can. There we go. Bob is ready. So any questions, my friends, in the chat, let me know. One or two questions for Bob. Any oh, okay. Thomas asked, why did he add orange juice to the jam? What was the purpose of the orange juice, Bob?
Lemon juice.
Lemon, oh.
And it just adds a little bit of acidity.
Nice. Okay. Could they use like lime? Is that something that they can use as well for acidity?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, here's the thing. When you're not, like, baking is a science. There's a lot of alchemy involved. When you are cooking like this, there's some science, like the apple has pectin in it, and that's what's going to help the jam thicken. If you look at this, see, this is not even cool yet, but see the way that's, whoops, it's already pretty thick. And that is the pectin in the apple and the skin of the apple that is helping to thicken it. But after that, if you decide to add some ginger, some lemon zest, some orange zest, you decide to make use lime instead of, it's all very forgiving. You might want to add a little bit of cinnamon to go along with the peaches. I mean, just do it. And worst case scenario, it might not be 100% the way you imagined it to be, but then next time you change it up. I mean, that's what cooking is all about, and that's what rescuing is all about. And even if you don't get the rescuing part right every time, it's just a great chance to start all over again the next day.
Nice. There you go, folks. And then
That's
I
my
had a question.
inspirational speech for you all, for all you food rescuers, your food heroes.
There you go. Well, from a master chef to food rescuers, we'll take it. And do you have any thoughts? Could you pickle potatoes?
Oh, now you're pushing, you're testing me. I'm where's my white towel? Well, I don't have a white towel. I'm gonna wave my green and blue towel in the air and surrender and say I don't know the answer to that question.
There you go.
I'm gonna go with no. I don't imagine that a raw pickled potato would really work.
We're curious, Bob, what's your go-to potato recipe? To
Go-to
save
potato
leftover
recipe?
potatoes. Yes.
Oh, for leftover potatoes.
Yes.
Hash browns. Absolutely.
There you go.
In bacon fat.
Okay. Challenge accepted. My goodness. I love it. What?
Careful who you challenge, Rose.
I know. I keep challenging everybody. And let me know in the chat, everybody, what you take on as a challenge. I love it. Are there any alternatives to garlic and cheese and pesto?
Well, you can use all sorts of different kinds of cheese, any kind of hard cheese. As far as the garlic, you don't need to add it. If you wanted to add a shallot instead, you could do that, and that would give it a little bit of tanginess, or you could just not add it at all.
There you go. And then maybe one final question. And I know there's a lot of questions in the chat, so if we can, maybe we'll send out an email with a few answers to the question if we can.
Sure.
But the last question for tonight.
You know me, Rose, I've got all the time in the world for food heroes.
Oh, I'll take it. For winter season, could they use frozen fruit to make jam as well?
You could use frozen fruit to make jam, but if your frozen fruit is already frozen, then you've already rescued it, because you can use it for smoothies and things like that. But sure, if you had a lot of frozen fruit and you wanted to do something else with it, absolutely. You let it thaw and then just go through the exact same process that you just saw me go through. Well,
you heard it here, folks. We can jam frozen fruit. So let's try that. I love it. Well, we want to thank everybody for hanging out with us this evening. I also
very smart. You have a very smart audience, Rose, and a very committed audience, and it's really beautiful to see that. It really warms my heart to see so many people from so many parts of the world really being concerned and being willing to spend an hour and a half with us to learn some new tricks. Amazing. And share their tricks with us.
Yeah, amazing. Give everybody a pat on your back, as the saying goes. So thank you everybody for hanging out. And before I log off, I do want to share that this is just day one. There are more opportunities for you to come and join us again. So we want to remind folks to come join us tomorrow for day two, ready to pickle and jam, to learn from our friend pickler and jammer extraordinaire, Jade Guthrie. She is the community kitchen facilitator at Food Chair in Toronto. So if you are new to canning, no worries, we got ya. This event will,
Whoops, sorry. Go ahead. No, finish up, and then I have
no worries.
Request.
Yes.
I do have one request. Now that I've shared everything I have in the world with you, I have one small request, and that is, I would really love it. I'm going to post a couple of shots on Instagram today. I would really love it if everybody in the audience went on to Instagram and followed my account, both for what I do for Second Harvest, what I'm doing in my own food world. And it just warms my heart to know that I'm sharing things with your audience. And so as a form of quid pro quo, it would give me great pleasure if you could go onto Instagram right now with your phone and type in Bob, B-O-B, B-L-U-M-E-R. That's BOBBLUMER, and hit follow.
Nice. All right, folks.
Much appreciated.
I'm going to add that in the chat. So head to Instagram, type in Bob Blumer, and follow him as well as Second Harvest for amazing food rescue tips. We are really super, super lucky to have him with us. So thank you so much for that, Bob. And I'm definitely going to go follow right after this one. I'm going to go directly and do that. So there you go. Yeah, so come and join us tomorrow again, folks, for day 2. If it's your first time canning, no worries. We will go through the pitfalls of beginners and also even experts days when they are canning so that you could really enjoy the harvest all year long. So Jade will help us build our skills so that hopefully by the end of the workshop, we can almost say that you will find canning easy peasy. So come and join us for tomorrow. If you haven't registered yet, let me get you that link, my friends. And come and join us for day 2 of Let's Preserve. Again, a huge shout out to Bob. And we also want to thank again Whole Foods Market for their contribution and for allowing us to run this webinar. Much appreciated. And so from my team to your family and teams, and on behalf of Bob, we thank you so very much for hanging out with us. We will hopefully see you tomorrow. Have a great evening, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. Talk to you soon.
Thanks so much, Rose.
Bye, Bob. Have a good one. Bye, everybody.